This can bake or break your glam. I wanted to create the ultimate video with everything that you needed on how to make baking really easy. Hey beautiful people, I'm back with a tutorial. It's been a long time. I get so many questions about baking, about setting. So we're gonna start first by talking about what is baking and what is setting, because there is a big difference. Baking originated from the drag community. It just does so many things. It smooths the skin, it makes it look more airbrushed, it makes it look more highlighted, more corrected, and it really does give you this beautiful, beautiful finish. But now we've started setting our face, and I really believe the reason that setting has come up and maybe people are not baking as much as they used to is because our makeup techniques have become so much better. And so you don't really need to bake the way that you used to. So baking gives you a more snatched, really, really smooth look, where setting gives you a more airbrushed, but more natural snatch. If you want more of a matte complexion, you would be looking for baking. And if you want a more glowy complexion, you would be going for setting. So people do like to use different tools when it comes to baking. My tool of choice for setting is a powder puff, and my tool of choice for baking is a brush. Powder puffs are amazing for cream products, but especially powder puffs are perfect when it comes to setting. I like one that has a nice kind of like density to it, because I feel like when it has a pillowy base, it also allows for a more even finish. So I do prefer a brush when it comes to baking. I just feel like the powder sits in the bristles and it allows you to drag, where the puff really does not carry a lot of powder in it because of the microfiber. It's more smoothing. I don't actually have the sponge here, but I'm sure you guys remember that triangular white sponge that people used to use. They were like really, really generic, but that used to be the tool of choice. I personally think with sponges, you need to be very, very careful, because if you have any water, like any little dips of water here, or people will bake and then they'll have like a little spot of powder there. And that's happened because there's a little water, and basically once it sticks to the powder, it creates a little bit of this like hardness. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look smooth. Okay, now that we've talked about tools, one of the most important steps before you get into application is choosing the right shade. This can bake or break your glam. Picking the right shade is all about undertone. I personally like to find powders that do have something that complements your undertone and actually will create a little brightness. For Easy, we have 10 shades, so that's a lot of shades. That's a lot of different colors that you can actually choose between to find the right shade for you. So I'm confident that you can find a right shade that exists out there. If not with Huda Beauty, there's definitely a lot of brands that have a lot of colors out there. Previously, Banana Bread was my shade, but now I've been obsessed with Peach Pie. It is a little bit more peachy in undertone, and I feel like it gives me a little extra brightness, which I love. And for me, this is the shade of choice. Now that we've got all of that out of the way, I want to show you guys the difference between setting and baking. So let's get into the application. This is the most common mistake that people make when setting their under eyes. For me, it's all about getting the perfect base. But the weird thing that I do is I shave my under eye. I hope this isn't gross. Maybe this is gonna gross people out. And I hope if it grosses you guys out, please accept my apologies. But I use my nose hair trimmer. I use a lot of lash serums, and I have a tremendous amount of peach fuzz. So I use my nose razor. This is actually one that I really love. This is from Panasonic. I like how it's flexible. It's not anything super special, but I like this one. What I like about using this versus a Korean blade, these can actually be a little too harsh. I actually have accidentally cut myself a little bit, even though the cuts were tiny. You don't want something that's gonna be that abrasive to your under eye. So the first thing I do, after I've exfoliated my skin, after I've hydrated it and I've done everything, I will actually go in and I will trim the hair. It's totally optional. So I'm gonna grab my little razor and I'm gonna start to just trim the hair there. And I do very small strokes because I don't wanna do long, harsh strokes. And there you go. It literally takes a couple seconds. It smooths this entire area, and it really does prep it for a really strong under eye application. So we have prepped the under eye, and now we're going to start with the application. For me, I'm crazy about corrector. My makeup just has not looked the same. So I'm gonna grab our FAUXFILTER color corrector in Cherry Blossom. It's my favorite shade. I'm gonna start by applying my color corrector. I feel like my makeup has totally changed. I think that's really one of the reasons why also baking is not as popular as it once was. You would kind of depend on your baking powder to do the extra brightening, to give you the extra highlight. And now we have so many tips like using color corrector to give you that extra brightness underneath that you really don't have to bake as much. It really is about setting now. Coming back to one of the reasons why we don't bake as much. We use concealers much lighter than we used to use. The rule back in the day was 2 shades lighter than your foundations. Now we go a lot lighter. So I'm actually going 6 shades lighter than my foundation. This is cookie dough. And we also kind of like let our concealers cook as well. When you're cooking, you're allowing your product to sit and gets a little thicker. And so, you know, we never used to do that. We used to apply concealer, we used to apply it in a big triangle that would blend it. And now because we also allow our concealer to cook, again, the need for baking is not what it once was. So I am gonna let my concealer sit a little bit around the nose. And I'm just going to start blending it slightly. I'm using it's kind of a fluffy brush, but it has a little bit of this precise tip. It's giving me a little bit of control. It's allowing me to get into like these corners right here. And a lot of people like to use sponges for the concealer. It depends on your preference. For me, I personally, we can do a whole video on under eyes if you guys want. We can talk more about this. But for me personally, I like to use either a brush or even a puff. I'm going to use a cream blush. The reason why I'm applying my blush now as well is I just like to apply all my cream products. I'm going to apply another color here. I always like to do like a couple colors. So I have applied all of my cream products, my foundation, my concealer, my color corrector, my contour, my blush. When I'm blending it with cream, I get the opportunity to really make sure that everything is seamless and blended. And then when I set it, it all just sets into place. Sometimes it can be a little challenging when you apply cream, you apply your powder, and then you apply another powder to like kind of dust product around. If you have textured skin, and I have always had really textured skin, sometimes you can find that it can cause a little bit of this like roughness, sometimes unevenness. And so for me, this whole method of applying all of your cream products, then just setting it is like just the best thing ever. My makeup has honestly never looked better since I started doing this. A lot of people will always ask me this question, like, what do you do if you have wrinkles? Is baking your wrinkles an actual thing? It is, but you need to know how to do it. Actually, I feel like this is something that's really, really basic, but a lot of people sometimes forget to just smooth out this like creasing. What happens is they end up setting that. And once you set that, it becomes even more obvious because it's not moving. Once you set that thick amount of product that's kind of come together, it's not moving. All right, so I'm going to set this side really quickly. And you can see I have a couple of little areas where product has like kind of gathered. And I'm actually like, I'm applying a nice amount of pressure. I really want to make sure there's no product inside these creases. And I have some little bit of wrinkles here, little fine lines. Remember, the skin is so smooth, so be gentle. I'm grabbing my Easy Bake. This is Easy Bake in Peach Pie. And I'm gonna go ahead and tap it a couple times, open it up. I'm using a puff because it's my favorite tool. And I'm just gonna grab a nice amount of product. And it doesn't need to be perfectly even either because I'm gonna use my microfiber towel, which I love to use a microfiber towel. And I like to dust off the extra product. And I actually end up using this. I end up keeping my powder here and end up going back to it with, you know, different tools in different areas. I end up not going back to my Easy Bake and I end up using this powder here. I like to use the microfiber towel because I feel like it picks up the excess product and it really does make it very smooth. Some people like to use the back of their hand and they do this. You're actually packing all the product inside the puff and this is going to give you the thinnest application. This is for people who really want that glowy skin, who really want just the lightest amount of powder, and it will still give you like a really beautiful airbrushed finish. No matter what method you apply. I am just gonna go ahead and set. And I usually like to go along the side of my nose first, just in case there's any excess product. I'm getting a really nice snatch there. Or I go along the corner of my eyes because I want the excess product to be here. I don't really want too much of it on my cheek because, you know, it can be a little heavier in that area. And you can really see the brightness that is happening on this side of the face. And now this is where my microfiber towel is perfect because I don't want to pick up excess product. I'm dipping it back into the microfiber and I'm actually going underneath here and I'm setting the rest of my face and I'm going to set my nose contour. I'm going to set everything. I'm not baking. I'm just setting everything. I basically like to press the powder into my face in really tiny tapping motions. I like to press product into my face. And you can see almost most of the powder is gone by now. So I didn't use a lot of powder. So you notice as I'm setting, I am going all over the face. All of my cream product is in and I'm just applying a little extra to the under eye and then just a small amount to the rest of the face, but everything is set. I mean, look how airbrushed this looks. It looks amazing and it will stay all day long, which is what I love. Just because I want to complete my entire complexion on this side, I am just gonna apply a little highlighter and then blush. I apply my highlighter before my blush just because I feel like it looks softer. So I'm just grabbing, this is just one of our old highlighters. And I'm applying a small amount here. And then I'm gonna go in just with like this blush palette that I made. It's just like a bunch of blushes from different brands. And I'm just gonna set everything in place. And I'm gonna just kind of add to that flush that I already have. I haven't baked transparently in a long time. Every time I do bake, I'm like, oh, this looks so good. So I have a lot of powder right here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to just apply a thin layer. Ooh, and I'm going back and forth. Do you see how much product I'm applying? Like it's falling on me. And by the way, you can also use a brush for this. I know we talked about the tools, like brushes are really great for this as well. And what I've always liked to do, I always like to kind of like feather out the edges. So, and again, I'm going to just drag it here because I also want to, I'm going to look totally lopsided. I have a meeting in like 20 minutes. I'm going to look totally lopsided to kind of go in this area as well. Even though I use a puff, sometimes I'll also go over it a little bit just to make sure the area is just smooth. And you guys can see that the baking side, I have really set most of my product under my eyes, a little bit in this nasolabial fold. I smile a lot, so I always put it there. And then under my jaw to bring out my jaw and make it look a little bit more sharp and lifted. On this side, I use like 1/10 of the product. I do also like to apply it to my forehead as well. So I'm creating a lot of dimension, or rather like a highlight. And now we're gonna let this cook. We are going to let this bake and cook, and it's gonna sit from anywhere between, you know, you could do as little as 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You can let it sit for 10 minutes if you have really oily skin. You can let it sit longer. The longer you leave it, the more of a brightening effect you're going to have, but also the more intense the powder is going to be. And now I'm just going to go ahead and dust off my powder. So basically, I like to dust off the powder in a way that snatches my face. So I'm going from the jaw, I'm going upward because I want to increase that snatch. And here I'm just like pressing it in because you can go upward if you want as well. And then this area too, I'm going upward as well a little bit. But I'm also going along whatever powder is left on my brush. I'm also just kind of making sure that it's hitting my cheek here. And I'm going to do my nose last. I'm kind of working my way upward in most of the areas. And then along the nose, I'm going towards the center of my nose. So everywhere you kind of go upward and out, except for the center of the nose, you kind of go in. I am just going to go ahead and finish this side of my makeup as well, and because I want to make sure we can really see the difference here. I'm not gonna lie, my skin does look a little drier on this side. It looks beautiful, it looks airbrushed, but because I don't use those heavy, thick foundations anymore, I do feel like it looks a little dry, but it looks airbrushed AF. This is the side that I set. This is the side that I baked. What side do you guys like more? Personally, for me, I'm obsessed with setting. I don't know if I'll go back to baking. The good thing about setting is you do use less product, and I think that's always a good thing. I also think it's better for your skin. I feel like my skin is breathing much better on this side. I'm definitely a setting girl, but I also can see why people love to bake so much. I will say on this side, I feel like I need a setting spray so badly. I need something to kind of melt it all together. So this is the difference between setting and baking. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like to set? Do you like to bake? Also, let me know what videos you guys want to see because I'm really excited to shoot these videos for you guys. I have become so obsessed with complexions. Your skin looking healthy with makeup, for me, was not a concept that I necessarily really grasped so fully, and I'm so obsessed with it right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys like this video, and let me know any other videos you guys want to see, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, my loves.